Well, hello everyone. It is March 6th, 2025, the year of the hierarchical conclave coming up. And be aware there will be strong spiritual energies, impulses, and influences spreading throughout the land, looking for a place to land throughout the land. So be receptive because um, it's time for It's time for a new dawning, and it's time to move into a higher state of conscious awareness and time for a new revelation. We don't know what that's going to be or look like, but we know one's coming. There's always something coming. That's the main thing. That people are always believing that someone great is coming. There's an avatar on the way. We're always reaching up to higher power, higher energy, call it God, whatever you want to call it. And that's always been the case, and it will always be the case because there's always a next step for everyone to take in their personal growth and evolution. And so, as we invoke the power and the assistance and the aid of the planetary hierarchy or the fifth kingdom, the spiritual kingdom, they stand by to be evoked. So, as we put the energy out to receive, they are standing by to send, but they can't send without a good receiver. And so prepare your hearts and minds. Does that make sense, Cindy?
It certainly does.
All right. Well, let's go around and see who's done what over the week. I want to hear some good success stories. If not, make something up, create a vision, something that you can move into. What do you got going, Ken?
Hmm, Not a lot going on. I'm trying to prepare myself for the three festivals, is what's on my mind right now because it's almost here.
The three festivals?
Yeah,
Well, okay. Well, just do it right now.
yeah.
Okay, you're prepared. You're as prepared as you're going to be. Just keep thinking lofty thoughts, huh, Ed?
Well, that's true. I've been reading the section in Raising Initiations about building the Antakarana, and the section I'm reading it gives the steps, the one, two, three things that we have to do, and it emphasizes the extreme focus, focus on the light in the head.
I'm speaking ahead. I see you got your head in the clouds there.
That's that's right.
And keep your feet firmly planted on the ground.
Yeah, and I've firmly planted about 10 or 11 asparagus plants in my garden yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he's a man of action. But that's your Antankarana going from keeping your feet on the ground and your head in the clouds and filling the space in between with lofty spiritual energy. I was telling Ed earlier, I the first work I've done in 3 months because of the weather. I got called to do a termite inspection. I went over to the gal's place, and I could tell right away people who sell real estate generally have a high level of energy and they're into success principles and motivational strategies and goal setting and all that. She was no exception. And so I took one of my books in on spiritual philosophy. And I said, well, you might just look at this while I'm working on here and looking for little critters. And she said, wow, this looks really interesting. And then she looked at it because you wrote this. I said, well, in my spare time, yeah, I kind of put it together. And so I went and did a little inspecting and came back and she goes, you know what, do you take Zelle? I go, you bet. She goes, I'm buying it. So she bought it on the spot. And I said, well, I'll bet you know a lot of people who are high-minded and like yourself. And she said, I know a lot of people. I said, well, if you get six or more that are interested, I'd be glad to come and do a little a little evening, a soiree, maybe a little presentation. Really? You'd come and do that? Why not? She said, okay. I said, okay, partner. That was my new, that was my new gal that I'm working with. And trying to remember her name. I'll think of it in a second. Uh, have it written down.
Reminds me of a song.
No,
My old flame, I can't remember her name.
Nor, Noriel, or I'll think of it. Um, so Noaline, that's her. There she is, right there. And she just looks smart too. Just to hang out with her was a real pleasure. So, and then yesterday I went to the Home Depot. My wife's been wanting a gazebo out. We've got this concrete um, pad out in our backyard. You've seen it, Ed. It's 8 by 10.5. And we've been going to put this gazebo up or some kind of a, quasi shelter. And then she got the idea that she wanted a she shed.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah. To put all of her gardening tools and riffraff and knickknacks and yada yada in. I said, okay, if I can put the lawnmower in it. Of course, that made her cry. So I had to retract that idea. So we shopped around and went to the Home Depot, and they are going to build exactly what she wanted with windows and a nice door and a nice floor and heavy duty shingles and yada yada, little over 3 grand. And but I said, can we knock $100 off of that? And the guy says, well, we'll need this gentleman over here to come and do it. So this guy came bouncing over, and I was talking to him. And he's another guy had real high energy. And I said, these times are tough. Can we knock $100 off of that? He said, let me see. I got to push a few buttons first. So he pushed a few buttons and it come up 100 minus $100. I said, you're my kind of guy. I said, I got a feeling that you're into personal growth and development. He said, well, as a matter of fact, I am. I said, I want you to go look up Curtis Harwell on Amazon. Oh, why? What do you got, a book? I said, well, as a matter of fact, I do. Well, what's it about? I said, well, it's about spiritual philosophy. Go check it out. He said, I'm into spiritual philosophy. So he wrote it down. He says, I'll order it. I'll order that book. And then I had one other person that said they'd order it. So I'm just having fun with that. You guys can use it too. By the way, my latest book, The Gathering of Lights, is available on Amazon through Kindle. So you can read the first 2 chapters for free. Just go on Amazon, type in Gathering of Lights, um, and it should come up. My Uncle Joe has a book on there called The Gathering of Lights too, but it's different, way different than mine. Anyway, if you want to read the first 2 chapters, they're available. That's all. So even though I've been in pain, and I'll tell you what, it's really hard to get motivated when you're in pain and you don't feel like getting up. But I'm forcing myself because now I have to go back to work. How about you guys? You staying active out there?
Well, I went out today and started uh, taking some of my supplies out to my greenhouse, and the wind started coming up. It was pretty cold, and I decided I'll wait till tomorrow.
We had 50-mile-an-hour gusts over here, Ken, Cindy. So it's kind of unpleasant, but that's another excuse for not having to work, huh, Ed?
Well, yeah, it was 40 to 40 something, 41 degrees with the wind blowing, and I decided I'll wait till daylight savings time or something
That's coming up, I think, on the 10th or something,
on Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah. So, well, 50-mile-an-hour wind at 40 degrees feels like about 20 below. So Who wants to go out and do anything in that kind of weather? You're in the fall time of year, aren't you, Cindy?
Yes, going into fall.
Yeah,
Mhm.
watching all the leaves change, turn color.
Yeah, this is a really nice time of year here in Texas.
Don't you just love four seasons?
Yep.
Do you get snow over there?
Not so much here in Western Australia. Occasionally a little brushing, light dusting of snow down in the southern part of the state, but not much at all, really. They do get some over in Victoria, over on the east coast, Victoria and southern New South Wales.
That's good. I hate to think we're the only ones that gets froze out. Oh, I had the other bit of good news. I posted a bunch of our Zoom classes on YouTube, so I'm getting some response there, just starting out. See how that goes. Spread the word, people. Spread the word. Don't be bashful. Step right up. That's what I like about this guy. He's a man of action. This Jawal Cool. He's a pretty cool dude, I think. Okay, where did we get to? I think we got to, we're going to read about the above six factors. The spirit of freedom triumphing in every land. Uh, the issues of war being increasingly clearly realized. The resources of the United Nations vast and now in mobilization. The will to victory steadily growing. Appeasement, pacifism, and uncertainty are steadily dying out. Either get with it or get off the pot. And the plight of humanity everywhere as the result of Axis aggression is definitely steadying public opinion and evoking an unalterable determination to end the evil initiated and carried forward by Germany and Japan, aided somewhat unwillingly by Italy. So these are some of the factors that we're going to
Yeah, I think we covered that last week.
Yeah, we're on page 369.
I know we are. Well, okay, Cindy, why don't you read about the above six factors?
Okay. Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Okay. The danger of too prompt a peace settlement. Number one, let us work hard for a prolonged armistice during which the heat of battle and the fires of revenge can have some time to die down. The agony of mankind can be assuaged and time be gained for calm, unhurried planning. Two, the danger of a return to so-called normality. The outstanding disaster which faces humanity at this time is a return to the state of affairs prior to the outbreak of the war and the rehabilitation of the old familiar world with its imperialism, whether of empire or finance, its nationalisms and its distressed, exploited minorities, its vile distinctions and separative barriers between rich and poor, between the Oriental and the Occidental, and between the castes and classes which are found in every land, without any exception. Number three, the dangers incident to the necessary adjustments between the nations. Any adjustment made upon the basis of historical tradition or ancient boundaries will only serve to plunge the world again into war. These adjustments must be carried out on the basis of humanity itself. The will of free peoples must be determined, the determining factor, and not the will of technical political experts or of some ruling class or group. In the world which is coming, the human equation will take a predominant position. human beings will determine, as far as in them lies, their own destiny, and men will exercise their free will in establishing the kind of world in which they choose to live. They will decide in which country they prefer to claim citizenship and the type of government to which they choose to give allegiance. This will necessarily all take time and must be an unhurried process. It will call for a planned education of the masses in every country, and the principles of freedom and the distinction between freedom and license will have to be carefully taught. A new world based upon the restoration of territorial limits historically determined will fail to end strife, aggression, and fear. A new world based on human values and right human relations can institute, slowly to be sure, but inevitably, the new civilization which men of goodwill demand for humanity as a whole.
Whoa, boy, you said a sentence full there. Well, the difference in uh, the reign of one country over another has been seriously outlined as what is right and what is wrong. It used to be might makes right. The strong prevail. If I can come and take your property, then I get more property, and who cares what, just go recreate yourself somewhere else. In the days of Alexander the Great, whoever had the courage and the wherewithal to go out and conquer, did so. And people followed those leaders like that in their conquest, the conquistadores. And they didn't care about trampling over the rights of other nations. No nation was sovereign unto itself. The lines were not explicitly drawn, and they could not keep invaders out. But now the tide has turned. Now each nation has to rule itself and declare its own sovereignty. Um, that's the difference. So each nation can create its own form of government and have its people rule as righteously as possible, depending on the consciousness of the people. Hitler was the last uh, tyrannical leader to want to uh, gain power and control through acquisition. And, he was defeated. And since then, we've developed things like NATO, League of Nations, uh, different camaraderies, national camaraderies to stand up against tyranny. And so, even this thing between Russia and Ukraine is wrong because one country has no right to cross the line and try to gain control of another country through militant warfare. It's
Well,
just
that's true. And we have what we just read that the people themselves have to decide. And instead of having Putin and Trump get together and decide what's going to happen for Ukraine, the people of Ukraine have to decide.
well, the people of Ukraine have already decided they don't want to be controlled by Russia.
Yeah, but our current orange-headed leader is he's cut off all aid and to Ukraine because Ukraine wouldn't give him half of all their national wealth.
Well, we're Ukraine. Zelensky wrote a letter to Trump acknowledging the work that we've done and the help and support and the aid we've given. So I think we're back on good terms with Zelensky, and Trump is going to get Zelensky and Putin together. He says that's the only way to end war is to get the militant factions or the leaders together to have a serious powwow. So that's what's going to happen. But whoever fires the first round is the first aggressor is always wrong. You know, if Ken and I we don't agree on something and we agree to disagree, and then Ken says, "Well, you know what? I'm just going to bloody your nose because you don't agree with me." And then kapow! All of a sudden, I'm laying on the ground with a bloody nose. That's where the line is drawn. Whoever draws first blood, fires the first round, uh, throws the first punch, the first aggressor is always wrong. Until that time, sticks and stones will hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. Uh, Break my bones. Well, something like that. So as long as we can speak peacefully with the intent of peace, then you can always win, create win-win. If Ukraine has something that Russia needs, well, I'm sure Russia has something that Ukraine could use. So they have to sit down and see how they can create win-win scenarios. And I think that's what Trump has in mind to see how they can.
He doesn't understand what he's dealing with. Mr. Putin wants to recreate the Russian Empire.
Doesn't matter what he wants. He
Uh,
won't be able to do it. He's going to run up against greater opposition than he had with Mr. Biden. Mr. Biden, he just not to get political, but he just let go of the reins about halfway through, and money just went flying out in every direction, uncontrolled, unrestrained. Uh, It's good to have a businessman in power sometimes to help balance the budget and get things on an even keel. But yeah, whoever, just because he wants to gain control through force doesn't make him right. That ended in the days of Hitler. That's what World War II was about, was the acquisition of land through militant means. Those days are over. We
well,
sure,
Mr. Putin has gotten a different way of doing it. He gets his people to move into parts of the neighboring country, and then later on he says, "Well, we're going to protect our people, so we're going to invade to protect our people."
yeah, well, invade. That's the operative word. Invade with tanks. Uh, anyway, those days are over, and we wouldn't want to be invaded. Cindy wouldn't want to be invaded. We have the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness and freedom and sovereignty, so we can self-govern, and that's an unalienable right that each individual has. In the story. It's a God-given right. The first rule, the first principle of heaven is free agency. And if you're not free to act as an agent unto yourself, then that's where your freedoms begin to dwindle and wane and dissipate.
Well, there's a lot of parts of the world where that principle hasn't been established.
Well, people are where they are. The bright minds came here to America, and many of them went to Australia as well. Um, it's all about consciousness. A lot of countries would try to emulate our our Constitution and our principles, but you know, go to Somalia, go to the West Africa, the different nations that are warring, or even Gaza. They're just not mentally, spiritually up to par with other more enlightened nations. But they will be. They're looking for other leadership, and we're here to provide it and be as much of a peacekeeper peacekeeping entity as possible without infringing. We don't want to go over there and impose our will on any other nation, no more than we'd want them to do that with us. But if we can help nations keep the peace, then we become, like the scriptures say, an ensign to the nations, an ensign of peace, peace and goodwill. We're a long way from creating heaven all through this planet. If we can just create a little heaven in our own lives, we're doing real good. So, it'll start small and then build and grow. And there are a lot of people out there that are receptive to the idea of creating a bit of a utopia through the gathering of lights. So it's up to us to present it in a way that people can appreciate it and accept it, I think. What do you think, Ken?
Well, the molecule will open up the windows of heaven according to DK, if I understand him right. That'll be a big step.
Well, it'll form a link, um, and it'll radiate a lot of spiritual energy, and people that are receptive to it will pick up on it.
Yeah, I guess like the the molecule would be kind of like a anticorona bridge between heaven and earth. Does that sound right?
Yep, that's what it is. It's also like a beacon. I'm reading a book about all these lighthouses, and these lighthouses are places of safety and refuge, but they also are beacons that indicate where ships can pass and not pass, so they don't become disemboweled upon the rocks. And people are looking for that. They're looking for a beacon of light and truth. And like you say, the molecule will create that and more, that and more, create a safe refuge for people to come to, according to Isaiah. And we live in such a fantastic time. Here we are in the middle of these great these great philosophical ideas that can come to pass finally. I got a Charlie horse. Oh boy. Well, okay. Even in utopia, there's always a little challenge or two. Okay, Ken, why don't you read a little bit about some dangers growing out of hate?
Okay, number 4. The dangers growing out of hate, revenge, and pain. These dangers will be the most difficult to avoid. A deep-seated hatred of the Nazi regime and of the German nation as endorsing that regime is steadily rising. This is almost inevitable, being based on the facts of Nazi activity. The task of the United Nations after the war will of necessity be, among other things, to protect the German people from the hate of those whom they have so appallingly abused. This will be no easy thing to do. Retribution and revenge must not be permitted, and yet at the same time, a just payment for evil action cannot and should not be avoided. The law ever works, and that law states that whatsoever a man or a nation sows, that shall it also reap. Germany has sown evil broadcast throughout the civilized world, and for some time to come, her lot must be hard, and she will have to pay in sweat and toil and tears for her evil deeds. But this payment should be part of the great work of rehabilitation and not a vengeful exaction. And if this is borne in mind, no serious mistakes will be made. The German people must work strenuously to put right the evil they have done, as far as in them lies. But the next generation, at present in the cradle or at school, must not be penalized. The little children and the babies of the German race, innocent of the wrong actions of their fathers and brothers, should not be implicated in the penalties exacted. The young men of today in Germany must, by the labor of their hands and the sweat of their brows, rebuild that which they have so ruthlessly destroyed. But the unoffending, though weak, elderly people, the little children, and the adolescent boys and girls must be exempt and must be trained to be citizens of a better and finer Germany than has ever yet existed. A Germany that is a constructive part of the whole, and not a menace and a terror to all right-thinking men. The arousing of the men of goodwill in every nation, men who see humanity as a whole, and all men as brothers, is the only way in which this rising tide of hate can be stemmed. It will not be stemmed by telling those who have suffered at the hands of the Axis nations that they must not hate, or by exhorting people who have been the victims of traitors that they must not bear ill will to such men as Whistling and Laval. It will be offset by a great demonstration of practical love and understanding on the part of the United Nations. A love which will work out in the form of food for the hungry, nursing for the sick, the rebuilding of the ruined cities, and the restoration of the scorched earth. The problems of hate and revenge will require the utmost skill in handling and will necessitate exceedingly wise action on the part of the free nations.
Okay. That was a long paragraph. That's a whole page full. Well, they have to pay, but they shouldn't be hated. You have to have compassion, even though they might have to spend some time in jail. You can still teach them and feed them and take care of the youth and the children, that fall victim. But you reap what you sow, and they don't get out of their karmic debt any more than the Jews did. Okay, Edward,
Good part of East Germany had still to suffer the tyranny of the Russians.
are they?
They did until the Berlin Wall came down. And remember the power of the word when Ronald Reagan said, "Tear down this wall."
Yeah, I remember that. Tear down this wall. And they did. Tore it down. People took little pieces of it as souvenirs. Well, it was a good thing. Now, if they could do that in Korea and exercise righteous dominion on both sides, that we'd really have something, wouldn't we? So
But
there,
it's going to take a long time for that to happen because those people are terrorized by their government. If they don't act like they're happy, they're going to be taken and locked up in North Korea.
yeah, yeah. If you don't salute your leaders, boy, you have to throw the book at you, throw you in prison, cut off your hands. So, there's a lot of pockets around the planet that need to be uh, brought up to a higher standard, that's for sure.
But all these things we've been reading, they're still not worked out.
No, there's still walls there in lots of places, or places where there shouldn't be walls. Yeah, there's a lot of places on the planet. We can only focus on what we can accomplish, though, in our own little world. So,
Well, and it's good to have a global view and work locally.
yeah, let's see that's kind of what I put here. This is what oh, that's the wrong one. This is the right one. The violet flame triad discussed how no person liveth unto him or herself. That was a couple weeks ago. At the plane of the soul, we are all connected, so it is time to act that we acted upon this realization. You are a point of power within a greater power, and united we become all powerful. This is what distinguishes the kingdom of the gods from the human kingdom. How are you using your power to manifest the kingdom of God in this reality? Join the Gathering of Lights project and let's make it so. Um, so there's strong power in union. That's the bottom line. And
Well, yeah, we've got those of us here.
yeah, so we can only, operate in our own sphere of influence. Cindy can only do what Cindy can do, and not much more. She can expand her periphery by her good works and by her words and actions, but there's only so much that any one person can do on their own. The power is in the group. Power is in the union of souls. That's what, and the sooner people realize that, the happier they'll be. Okay, where did we get to, Ed? I think it's your turn to read a little bit of soul.
Well, we got to number 6 here.
Okay.
The danger of reemergence of the nationalist spirit. Intense nationalism was one of the prime movers in bringing about the war, and no nation has been exempt from this spirit of national pride and from nationalistic separative outlook. Selfish interests have controlled the reasons for which every nation has entered this war. Individual security has prompted the entry of even the most enlightened democratic nations. That to these selfish incentives, they have added world need, and the love of freedom is true and serves to balance thought and offset the selfish motives. That the instinct of self-preservation gave them no alternatives is likewise true. But the fact remains that there would have been no war if democratic nations had been the determining factor. That in itself gives rise to questions. Why did the powerful democracies in the last analysis permit this war? When united and balanced together from the start, they might have arrested it in the initial stage. That reminds me of saying that the saddest tale told by men is what might have been.
Yeah.
Also, given the existent aggressive nations, collective self-interest forced the democracies to combat, and that this same self-interest should have made them take the steps which would have guaranteed the peace. National types, individual nations, interests, national cultures, and national civilizations exist side by side, but instead of being regarded as contributory to one integrated whole, they have been zealously competitive and have been regarded as the peculiar and distinctive prerogatives of some one nation and existing for the sole good of that nation. It kind of reminds me of what we've been hearing from our country lately.
What's that?
In the future, the contributory factor in life must be emphasized and developed, and the good of the entire family of nations must be substituted for the good of one nation or group of nations. The education of the public in this ideal necessities no in this ideal necessitates no loss of national identity or individual culture that must remain and be developed to its highest spiritual goal for the enriching and the cultivated good of all. It is only the motive for the emphasis of any specific racial or national culture which must be changed.
Well, there you have it. National cultures and civilizations must learn to exist side by side and seeing what they can contribute. So, whether the entity is a human being, a community, a city, a state, a country, they all have to remain sovereign and see what can I do to be of service to you, rather than go in and level your cities to the ground and burn your hospitals and blow up your libraries. What can I contribute? That's how you begin a win-win scenario, not by attacking. That just uh, provokes animosity and retaliation. What do you get out of that? Look how many people died in World War II. 80 million, somewhere around there. I mean, good things can't come out of war, but it must needs be that offenses come, but woe unto them by whom they come. Anyway, if we can just teach people the spirit of peace and goodwill, and like we talked about last week, peace by itself is kind of a stagnant uh, energy, or more of a state of being, but it's static. It requires goodwill to put it in practice, to make it applicable. Goodwill. And goodwill is when you can share something. What can I let go of that I can share? We have neighbors on the south side of us. Anytime they need something, we give it to them. Their furnace went out. Here's an extra heater. Use it as long as you need. And it just so happened that 2 weeks before, when I was in Weimar, they had a special run on those heaters, and they were like $40, and they're really a deluxe heater. They're very effective. So I bought one, and I had an extra one, so I wasn't out anything. And they return good deeds to us all the time as well. Now the other neighbors, yeah, not so much. They're kind of reclusive. But well, I guess you have to kind of be available to give and receive. Huh, Ken? You can't force it on anybody. Okay, let's see what else he's got to say. That was well said there, Ed. Speaking of national pride, that's what got Germany in a lot of trouble. I told you when I went to 1986, they had a World's Fair in Vancouver, Canada. I went to that. And they had all these different national pavilions where they would, present their goods and wares and their technologies and whatnot. And they all had something very intelligent to offer, and they were all put together very professionally and very spirited until you went into the German pavilion. And the German pavilion In 1986, if it was any indication of how it was back in 1935, it hadn't changed a whole lot. In that their spirit of national pride was far above and beyond though that of any other pavilion. They had a big table, and when some of their dancers would get up on the table to dance, the whole crowd would just explode in applause and shouting and revelry, and it would drive the dancers to do things that they wouldn't normally do, but beyond the limits of normal people. You know, they'd do somersaults, and they'd fall off the table. They would get so animated. But there was just something about the pride that the German people had in their exhibitionists that was kind of unrivaled, unparalleled in the whole expo. And that's what got Germany in trouble is their national pride. You know, we're better than. We've never been defeated. Time for us to extend our national boundaries. So anyway, just a sense that I got by watching them. Does the family of nations viewed as a unit, its correct and proper interrelation, and the shouldering of responsibility for the one or for the weak must be the realized goal of all national enterprise. How about that? Mark that. The resources of the entire planet must be shared collectively, and it must be increasingly realized that the products of the earth, the gifts of the soil, the intellectual heritage of the nations belong to the whole of mankind, and to no one nation exclusively. No man liveth unto itself any more than any individual can haply so live. And that's what I just said a minute ago. No person lives unto themselves. The nation or individual who attempts to do so must inevitably perish off the face of the earth. All nations have made this selfish attempt, as history, ancient and modern, goes to prove. Their tradition, their resources, their national genius, their past history, their mineral and agricultural products, their strategic position on the planet have been used in past centuries for the benefit of the nation claiming them. They have been exploited for the increase of the power of that nation at the expense of the suffering of others. This is the sin which Germany is today committing, aided by Japan and feebly followed by Italy. Power politics, their exploitation of the weak, aggression, economic selfishness, ideals based on pure commercialism and materialistic and territorial goals color all the past history of mankind in both hemispheres and have laid the foundation for the present war. Well, he's nailing it. You know, just because your nation has all the gold doesn't, and mine has all the the copper, and Cindy's over there, she's got all the coal. If we don't learn to share, then we'll perish. That's what he's saying.
I'd like to have you go and speak before the United Nations and read this.
Then, okay. Can I get an
I'll
airplane
buy, I'll,
ticket?
I'll buy you a ticket.
Okay, I'll go. I'll wear a tie if I have to. Well, these are the principles that should govern every nation. And, you know, I think it'd be great to get nations to work in groups of three. Just pull three nations out of a hat and say, these are the two nations that you're supposed to be working with. Go make friends. That'd be a step forward, wouldn't it? Okay, well, we got time to read a little bit more. Cindy, you want to carry on, sister?
Okie doke. Some nations, particularly the great democracies, like the British Commonwealth of Nations and the United States of America, now realize that these attitudes and activities must end, and that the hope of the world lies in the spread of right human relations, in economic interchange, broad unselfish international politics, and the growth of the spirit of cooperation. They believe unalterably and as a basic national policy in the rights of the individual, and that the state exists for the benefit of that individual. To that, they add the belief that the state also exists for the benefit of all other states and for humanity as a whole. Other nations, such as the Axis powers, are violently crystallizing the ancient viewpoints, emphasizing the worst aspects of the old and evil order, and are aggressively grasping all that they can for themselves. They regard the individual as of no value and hold that he exists only for the benefit of the state. They believe that the state is the sole unit of importance and that only their particular state counts. They divide the family of nations into a superstate for the control of Europe and another for Asia, and regard all other states as slave states. They would perpetuate the ancient evil of force and war, and would do resort to unheard of cruelties in the effort to raise their state to supreme eminence.
Wow. Isn't that the truth? The
Gosh,
only thing of value is the state. Let's see, that sounds like Marxism, communism,
a
uh,
little accent bashing there.
fascism. Um, yeah, the corrupted form of communism, where, the state reigns supreme and you're just a little cog in the wheel. Big Brother is watching. Uh, no, it begins with the individual. They got it backwards. Begins with the individual, becomes sovereign unto himself, family, community, then state, then nation. It starts from the smallest denominator and works its way up, not from the top down. When business begins to realize that, then they'll be more successful, giving power to the people. People can get a lot done if you just show them what you want, you know. This is what we need to happen. Go to it. Oh, okay. And here's some money to back it up. Make a plan.
That sort of reminds me of that. I don't know who said it or wrote it, but it was that it went something like when there is righteousness in the character, there is harmony in the home. Where there's harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. When there is order in the nation, there is peace in the world.
Yeah, it begins between a man and a woman. When a man and a woman, you have peace at home, then it begins from there. And that takes effort to create peace in the home. You really have to love your partner, in spite of their flaws, which only you can see. You can see them; their flaws shine brighter than anybody else's, and you have to learn to love, in spite of or because of their weaknesses. Um, and if you can do that, then then you're really learning how to love. And I think that's one of the reasons we have marriages is so people can learn how to deal with another person's personality, uh, get beyond judging and show more compassion. You know, it's amazing. I'm getting this little she shed for my wife, and she is just tickled pink She just can't believe it. She went out and bought a pegboard so she could put her tools up, and she's getting it all organized in her mind, and she's just happy as a clam. And what did it cost? Hardly anything, to make somebody happy. And then you develop that in another person. I know, Ken, you're doing the same thing with Manny. uh, you bring out so much good in them that you wonder why you didn't do that earlier. Maybe you did in some ways, but my point is there's really a lot of value in just in dealing with your spouse. I'll bet your husband does a lot of good things for you, doesn't he, Cindy?
He does. Most certainly does.
You have to plan a few suggestions every now and then along the way.
Occasionally, but surprisingly not as often as you would think. Oh,
Uh,
he's a good guy. And
well,
we have our own interests and everything. So we're not in each other's way all the time, even though we're both at home now.
well, I always say that's why men go out to work. It's not just to make money for your partner and for your quality of
Yeah.
life, but you got to spend some time apart so you can appreciate your time together.
It's a little adjustment, when having him around all the time. So, but we made it.
Yeah, well, I made it through the last 3 months without working, and well, we have so many things in common that neither of us got in the other person's way at all. We like the same kind of food. We cook together. We watch the same TV. She's not into deeper philosophy, but I think a lot of that's because she had a brain injury uh, 30 years ago, and it really messed her up. And I could begin to appreciate that when I was on medication, and I was just wasn't thinking as clearly, and I'd stumble and I'd drop things, and I'm thinking, man, you know what? I'm out of my nexus here. Um, but all things considered, we just get along really well. So Ed, we need to find you a woman too, so you can discover the joy.
Well, my dad used to say, "Well, you're like Jesus, you love them all."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's spoken like someone who doesn't know jack shit about relationships.
Well, I'm just saying that's what my dad said because I would come around with different lady friends all the time.
Yeah, I just love them all. Hey, how's that working for him?
Uh,
Heck, I don't have that much time. Plus, my wife won't let me. I asked her if I could have a girlfriend. She said, "Oh, I'll get back to you on that." She said, what are you not getting at home, Flyboy?"
I'm glad I got to meet her at the gathering, the last gathering. She was just such a lovely person, really lovely.
Yeah, she can be a bit of a brat, but mostly she's a lovely person. I suppose I can be too from time to time. No, she's really easy to get along with. And if something's not going her way, it's real easy all I have to do is come up and rub her back a little bit, and it just shifts her mood. And people are like that. It doesn't take a lot uh, to to show love, um, if you're willing. You just have to step a little bit outside of your own comfort zone, just a little bit, and walk in their shoes for a minute and say, you know what, I'm really here to make her happy. What can I do? And then life is so much easier. I'm here to make her happy. And if I make her happy, of course, it's going to come back to me. But it's a joy to have a partner that's happy. And all you got to do is just put forth a little bit of effort. Like if she's not feeling up to it, I'll just go in and start cooking dinner. And I say, why don't you just sit there and finish watching your girly movie? She likes these schmaltzy girly movies, romantic comedies and whatnot. Um, I like public access, some of the documentary stuff. But anyway, I just say, why don't you just sit there and relax, watch your movie, and I'll cook you dinner. And no big deal. Do you do some of the cooking at your place, Ken?
Not much. Um, my
No.
wife's a pretty good cook, and I don't think I can cook like she does. Nobody'd probably want to eat what I was cooking.
What do you eat a lot of over there?
Oh, I used to just mostly eat fish, but I've been trying to change my diet a lot. I'm not getting enough protein, I don't think. So we started getting buying some beef, and I can't hardly chew it up. So my wife shreds it, makes it like shredded beef. It's about the only way I can eat it. I'm trying to see if that will help me. Uh, I think I'm just low on protein. I've been listening to some of the one of these nutrition guys talk about it, so I'm experimenting with it. But she eats a lot of seafood.
Well, it's nice to have a woman that's a better cook than you are. And I'll bet you're a pretty good cook all by yourself, aren't you?
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Well, when I lived by myself for a number of years, and you know, I cooked what I wanted to eat. My daughter does most of the cooking now, but a few years ago, I used to make a lot of lasagna and spaghetti sauce, and things like that.
Pizza?
No, I don't make pizza.
Well, Papa Murphy's makes pizza. I just cook it. Well, you grow a lot in your garden over there, though. So you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grow it during the spring and summer. We have a lot of things out of the garden. I still have green beans in the freezer from last year.
Every time I have a birthday party, I invite Ed, and he brings over a whole half a garden full of squash and melons and beans and all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, every year I try to improve. I'm trying to improve the soil here so things will be a little better because I have trouble with some of the plants that don't grow like they should.
Well, you got all that cow manure out there in your back 40. That ought to.
Well, we've plowed that under and we're raising alfalfa in there now. Got rid of the cows.
They got rid of the cows.
Yeah,
Oh, well, shame on them.
but I know where I can get cow manure. I'm going to be getting some more. There's the place down south for here. Um, it's about 10, 12 miles south on Elmore Avenue, and there's a cattle feeding yards. There's about 200,000 cows there, and I take my dump truck and get about 6,000 pounds of cow manure.
You think that'd be enough?
Well, I've done it before.
Huh. Well, I'm looking for a gal for you though, Ed. I got my ear to the ground.
You go,
I kind of know what would make you happy. She'd have to be a searcher like you should have to,
Well, I think the greatest happiness for me comes from the meeting of the minds, where the communication is from first from it starts from the top down.
yeah, that's where you want to start. The mistake a lot of people make, they start from the below the belt and try to work their way up.
That doesn't work.
Now, that's what they mean by I like to love them all. Yeah, right. But if you can find one that you're mentally, spiritually compatible with, you're doing good. I do read to my wife a little bit. I'm reading to her from the light of the soul, or or I can read to her from a blue book. After about 2 pages, I say, "Hey, honey, are you awake over there?"
I bet she goes to sleep.
I put her to sleep every time. But anyway, that's okay.
Well, back in the 80s, I was going to some classes in the evening, and I think I mentioned it was this fellow was teaching from Dr. Thomas Horace work on existential metapsychiatry. And in there, he says there's no such thing as a relationship. The only true relationship is a joint participation in the good of God.
Well, that's how you relate. Relationship is just about relating. How do we relate with each other? How do you relate to that idea? It's all relative how you relate.
Well, I think there has to be a common goal.
There has to be a lot of things. Has to be good chemistry. You have to like waking up to that person every morning.
I found that, I'm not an astrologer, but there's certain signs that I have an affinity toward, and some I don't.
I'm the same way. I've been with cancers and Virgos mostly. Um, how about you, Cindy? What are you?
I'm a I'm a Pisces. Today's my birthday, actually.
Well, happy
Oh,
birthday.
yeah. Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
I'm entering my seventh decade today.
You're 70 years old?
Yes,
Oh, wow. Okay, everybody, ready? Happy
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 birthday.
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday to
birthday
To you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
birthday.
dear
Cindy.
Sandy.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
oh, oh, that's so sweet. Thank you very much. I found that I'm very probably cancers for me too. I've been married to two cancers.
Yeah, water
Uh,
signs, it would be more compatible.
yeah, and my husband right now, he's is a Scorpio, so
Yeah,
he's which is also a water sign.
right.
Yeah.
My
I've had experience with Scorpio women and Cancer women.
never had much to do with Scorpio women or Sagittarius women. Uh, I don't know. Maybe I have and just didn't haven't known it, you know. Out of the
I
hundreds known, I don't know what all their signs are.
I found that a lot of times opposites, the polar opposite of the sign that you're born in is can also be very compatible.
Well,
So, like for you, Curtis, that would be a an Aquarius because you're a Leo, and for me and Ed, that would be Virgo because we're Pisces. Yeah, that sort
My
of
brother's
thing.
a Virgo.
Hmm.
well, Joe's Aquarius. He's almost exactly my polar opposite. I'm August 7th. He's February 6th. And we're very compatible. I hardly ever have to slap him.
Yeah.
I used to wrestle with him a little bit, but we've always got along real well, me and my uncle. And I get along good with Aquarius mostly overall. I get along with just about anybody as long as they agree with me. No, I'm just teasing. They don't have to agree with me. Very few people do, actually, but that's all right. Okay. Any other comments on what we've been through before we wrap this particular
Well,
set?
I think it's all well and good to understand what happened back in the 40s, but I think what's necessary is that we need to take a critical look at what's going on right now and find a way to express these principles to those people who are trying to govern this country.
Well, I think Trump is trying to get Zelensky and Putin together. You know, he's seeing the value of cooperation. Cooperation rules. That's the keynote of the Aquarian age. Get people to cooperate instead of compete.
Well, he's making a lot of enemies. That's what he's doing.
I don't know. Um, probably a lot of people don't like him, but I think he's
One
going to.
of, one of the people in Washington got up and started yelling at him when he was giving his speech to Congress.
I know they kicked him out. I know. And he said a lot of good things, and all the Democrats sat over there like they just ate a lemon. Well, that's up to them, you know, but you have to see the good that's being done and rally
Well,
behind.
I understand that there's things that need to be done. And first of all, the man needs to learn tact.
Okay, well, I don't want to go into a whole political thing because you know, at least he'll balance the budget and make
You
things,
know, there's ways of saying things that you don't create discord.
yeah. Well, see read his intention. Read
The
his,
road to hell is paved with good intentions.
read his intention. He acts on his intention. That quote you made is just about people that don't take action. Just I intended to but didn't do it. He intends to and does it. He's a man of action. Whether you like his action or not, he doesn't just sit on his intentions. He acts on.
Well, uh, it, a bull in a china closet has a good intention.
Yeah, well, sometimes things need to be stirred up. I'd hate to have 4 more years of what we just went through. And he's discovering where billions and billions and billions of dollars were misappropriated. And is
Well, have we seen it? I'd like to see a tabulation of it.
well, you heard it. If you listened to the address, you heard about it. It was all put out in black and white. Pay attention. You'll see all the, you know, even Chelsea Clinton, they spent $3.5 million on her wedding, but I'm not going to go into all of that. It's just that there was a lot of misappropriation, and a good businessman learns how to balance budgets. That's what he's about. So, you know, learn to cooperate, see the good in people, and uh, do as much good as you can all week long. That's it. Just have a moment of silence. Sure like hanging out with you guys. I look forward to this hour every week. Get to see your smiling faces. What do we got? Points of light, great invocation. What else have we got? I had a whole bunch of mantras. Well, I'll just close this meeting with a little great invocation. Let's all do some alms, shall we? Oh, I don't hear you, Ed. I don't hear you, Ed.
Turn up your hearing aid.
Are you Omen?
I'm on the range.
Okay. Hey, hey, hey. Om on the rain. Mm. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. May light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Oh,
Oh.
good to see you guys.
See you next week.
All right. Have a great week. Go stir 'em up, Cindy. Stir 'em up, Ed. Stir 'em up, Ken. Hey, Ken, it's just you and me.
Yeah, just us. Oh,
Hey,
man, my wife's here. Luke's here.
yeah, Manny's there. Well, okay then. Now we can really talk.
So I was going to ask you, uh, are y'all healing up?
Yeah, slow but sure after 2 weeks. Pain threshold's down to about one or two. I'm kind of fidgeting around a little bit. It's hard to sit in one spot for a long period of time, but I think by next week I should be pretty much back to normal. How about you?
Yeah,
Pretty good health, aren't you?
yeah, I'm doing okay. I have my, uh, I've got a hernia that